This is presentation on English composition, clarity in sentence, and paragraph construction. Hopefully this will work. I've had some trouble with the presenter view. It's supposed to automatically forward to the next one when I click. Okay. Why does clarity matter? Well, communication depends on it, whether we're using spoken communication or written communication. Understandable communication is the responsibility of the initiating communicator. Right now, that is me. I am initiating this conversation with you guys through this PowerPoint and through this video. When students do their writing assignments, they are the initiating communicator. I may have put some prompts in there with questions that they have to ask, but I don't know what the student knows. The student is initiating that communication with me, telling me their lived experiences as they apply to those prompts that are in the assignment. This is actually a very confusing sentence here from one of my actual courses. This first sentence in this reading, right at the very beginning of this publication, was there no editor? What's going on? There are 3 paragraphs missing from this sentence. This is a run-on sentence because it's missing 3 commas. I'm just befuddled. This distressed me so much, I actually had to write this down by hand, get my red marker, and put the commas in before I could even continue reading this. It just, as an English teacher, it just absolutely drove me insane. So let's look at a few more examples of what happens when you don't use commas. How does that affect clarity? Well, there's this screenshot about how someone wrote that Ayesha Curry is both the mother and the wife to NBA superstar Stephen Curry. Commas are used to list things and also to mark off dependent clauses. And you need those for clarity to understand what is going on. Typically, you put a comma where you would make a pause. You would make a pause as you're reading this. There should be a comma after mother because it's a list. This screenshot is another illustration. Among those interviewed were Merle Haggard's 2 ex-wives, Chris Christopherson and Robert Duvall. That is how you read that without that extra comma in there. This book is dedicated to my parents, Ayn Rand and God. Do you see what I mean? When you read out loud what was written, then you understand a little bit better where the commas are supposed to go. This is redacted for trauma-informed purposes. But when you use the comma, and there was a comma before but, because it's a conjunction, you never start a sentence with a conjunction. The Oxford comma is I'm trying to think of how to explain this. better. And honestly, right now I can't think of it. So we'll head on through the PowerPoint. This one uses the Oxford comma. We invited the rhinoceros, Washington, and Lincoln. There should be a comma here because you're making a list. In this one, without it, the rhinoceros are named Washington and Lincoln. This is a picture of a mug that I saw on Etsy. I don't say Etsy because that's one of the ways you can pronounce the word for mom in Cherokee. You can also say Etchy. But you can see the lack of clarity from missing commas. I love cooking my family and pets. Or is it supposed to be, I love cooking my family and my pets? This one is another example. It's one of my favorites. Let's eat grandma. Let's eat grandma. You see how when you read it, whether it's out loud or in your head, that comma lets you know what is going on. Are you eating grandma for dinner or is grandma a guest at the table? You absolutely have those two different meanings in these two sentences. This writing system was created not just to let you know how to pronounce words, but also to understand their meanings. Why were Native Americans historically taught substandard English? That is the next logical question at this point. And this quote from Bell Hooks explains it perfectly. Sometimes people try to destroy you precisely because they recognize your power, not because they don't see it, but because they see it and they don't want it to exist. I have never met a Native American student who was not eloquent. I have met tons of Native students who had a prior teacher tell them they were stupid or they didn't know how to write well in English, or their English grammar was bad and they were never going to learn the right way to do it. That is wrong. If that was you, they were discriminating against you and they were trying to destroy you and hold you back to keep you from writing as eloquently as you speak. So, what other resources are available to help us meet and exceed communications standards? I got a link for this book in a email from a organization called BookBub, BookBub. They send out links for digital books that are frequently discounted. They've made an agreement for a limited time with the publisher, the distributor, or whatever. This one is a self-study guide. It is ESL and EFL friendly. You can also look online for free online copies of the Big Blue Book of Grammar and the Writer's Guide. The Writer's Guide was done in 2012, and it's still very valid. This is also one that I got from BookBub. Guide to Writing Better Paragraphs. This one, I refer to this one all the time. This is a fantastic reference book. It's only available on Kindle or in hard copy, as far as I know. And he absolutely proves how nonlinear methods of research are valid, scholarly, and robust. This book is another one that I got, but it's only available in hard copy as far as I know. Excuse me. It was between $8 and $15 and it's absolutely worth buying. It gives you starting sentences that help you frame your content in a way where anyone in academics is going to be able to understand and understand that you know your stuff. Here's an illustration of why spelling and grammar are workplace skills. We can see this word right here. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, why didn't the printer catch that? That is not the printer's job. There is someone from the city, from the Kansas City Department of Tourism, who should have proofed this before it went to the printer. It's not the printer's job. But what's stunning is that it came back from the printer, nobody caught it, and it got put up in their window anyway. Here is another reference book, and here is the name of the email newsletter that I get, where it talks exactly where to put the commas. This has useful sample sentences and mnemonics, plus a reference chart. This screenshot is from my medicine wheel that I drew up for my TESOL capstone project on teaching from the circle. You can see part of my medicine wheel here. I zoomed up on this corner. These items here, these bullet pointed items, show the validity of decolonized English instruction. Teaching from a medicine wheel, teaching from the circle, is an example of civil rights in action. Civil rights is not a modern phrase. It was actually first coined in the 1600s. Teaching from the circle, using a medicine wheel, illustrates the whole of civil rights. It shows the connection between vocabulary and practical action. It breaks it down on which of the actions are illuminating foundational wisdom or bring purity and close the circle on a topic. It breaks all of the content down that needs to be learned, taught, or processed into digestible, bite-sized pieces. And finally, words matter. We are decolonizing our English. Should we call it artifacts? Well, that gives the impression that it's something that should be in a museum or can be transferred from one museum to another. Like one museum can buy it from another museum. Objects, that's a term frequently used by archaeologists. Also, finds is another one, as is antiquities. They didn't find it. It was either placed in a grave for a purpose, and yes, that helps us understand how people used to live, but these are ceremonial items. They would not have been put in that grave with whoever it was, whether they're indigenous or not, if it was not a ceremonial item, either for personal ceremonies or community ceremonies. I want to thank you for being here. I absolutely appreciate you, and that is the end of this PowerPoint.